If there's one thing that always has a special place in my heart as a sorcerer, it's Ice Shards. There's just something so deeply satisfying about that as they careen forward, tearing everything to pieces. Now, hello my fellow sorcerers, and welcome to Season 8 Ice Shards. It is good? Look, I know that's not the most exciting of descriptors to start this with, but I am kind of underselling it there. So, we have then Ice Shards in a form that makes it the best it has been since, well, Ice Shards was good back in the early days and seasons of Diablo 4. Really does feel like a lifetime ago, and oh, I have been making sorcerer builds for nearly 2 years. Wow. In any case, Season 8 then has given us a brand new unique in the form of Hail of Verglas. And what this does is, well, make your Ice Shards fire out in a fan shape instead of the normal straight line. And the reward for doing that is a hell of a lot more damage from its effect. The only real downside of this is it's a helmet, which means you can't wear Air of Perdition, which means you're immediately losing that 60x damage, which absolutely sucks. If this was a wand or a focus or even a pair of gloves, it would have been so much better than it is now. There really is a huge issue that if any specific class unique gets made in the helm or chest slot, and for sorcerers honestly the ring slot too, it has to be absolutely broken for it to see use because it's competing with the very best mythic uniques in the game that you always want if you can. I digress. We have to use it, of course, because it is still worth it and it is still better than Air of Perdition and then normal Ice Shards. Thankfully, it's always nice when a new unique is actually the way to go. In any case, this turns it into a proper Ice Shards shotgun, piercing through everything, doing a bunch of damage, and just generally being awesome fun to play with. We also have little quality of life, like Ice Shards actually being able to hit enemies that are on top of your face, which is really, really good too, otherwise this would be super frustrating to play. Your piercing cold aspect is now actually a damage gain on top of piercing, instead of just, punishing you for wanting the ability to kill multiple enemies at once, so the stars are definitely aligned. And bottom line, apart from just being, fun, which I feel like in a lot of cases should be enough to warrant playing this, it is powerful, it is strong. It's of course not up there with your lightning spear build of the season that I released a couple days ago, you can check that out, but it's not exactly a slouch either, as you can see by this torment for Belial kill. Pretty speedy. Though, make no mistake, this really isn't because of Ice Shards and more because of how broken strong Enlightenment is at the moment, and essentially any build, if you abuse that, is going to look pretty damn good. Lightning Spear Splintering Energy still remains the best build, and still that righteously abuses Enlightenment. But hey, that's still a good thing that we have access to, and if you don't know what's up with Enlightenment, I'll explain it a little bit later on in this, but this pit that I'm doing in the background is leaning a lot less on the bug, and it's still solid. So if you are a fan of Ice Shards, and believe me, it really is worthwhile with this new unique, it is so entertaining, you can do a lot worse than playing it, and honestly, it is one of the most fun new builds sorcerers have had in a while, at least in my humble opinion. So if you are wanting to go full Ice Shards, and as you can see, speed farming through a pit 65, I would say its upper limit is probably going to be like a pit 90, maybe at a push around there. We shall see, depending on if any new techs are discovered, but either way, Ice Shards good, and I will teach you how to make Ice Shards good now. Let's get into it. In a daring move no one saw coming, we're gonna start with the skill tree as always. Any 2 points in to your basics, so we can move on to your cause, where we fill up Ice Shards for all of the lovely damage, get to your enhanced, and then finally destructive for that vulnerable uptime. Then we fill out elemental dominance for a free 12% multiplicative increase. Most of the time will be above 50 mana, as this build is very mana efficient. To your defensives, where we grab flame shield just to have it, that emergency oh no button. We get then teleport filled out just to lower its cooldown as much as possible into enhanced and then mystical for that crackling energy generation that we will need. We then put teleport in as the first of our enchantments so we can double teleport and really farm with speed. It's also fantastic for something that particularly Ice Shards does well that we'll talk about in the how to play it section. In any case, we then get glass cannon as its lovely free damage, and then over into ice armor, enhanced and then shimmering, so essentially we have permanent ice armor, which is very good for the whole not dying thing. Over to our conjurations, where we grab familiar, enhanced, and then invoked for that 10% increase while the familiar is out, and we do put familiar as our second enchantment slot. Now, yes, occasionally we will summon the one with ice blades, but we also want this in the enchantment slot for the enchantment master Paragon, as it's currently not working as it should and making it give us way more damage than it should, but hey, don't tell anyone, we're not complaining. In any case, we then get ice blades into enhanced and then roaring just to speed up the build a little bit, full mana shield for damage reduction, and then full protection for even more barrierage. Over to your masteries, where all we care about is the free damage from inner flames, and then to our ultimates. We get the full quad of icy buffs, the damage from Hoarfrost, Permafrost, and Icy Touch. And then Frigid Breeze gives us our mana restore. Now, once you have mythic uniques, particularly Starless Skies, you can kind of get away with 2 or 1 points in this, but I like to leave 3 in just for that reliability and make sure mana's just not something you have to think about at all. Get elemental synergies for the extra damage it provides, and then evocation for the free cooldown reduction. We want unstable currents maxed out so it has as low a cooldown as possible. However, if you can press it on the dot every 10 seconds with less points in, you can put less points in, put them somewhere else, but for now I have left all 5 in, and then mainly what we've gotten it for is this extra 25% bucket to attack speed increase to really blast off those ice shards. Then conduction down to convulsions, that's why we're generating crackling energy, or at least one of the reasons, and that's an extra 15% multiplicative increase. Now then, as sad as this is to say, as much as buffed avalanche is, you know, a thing, with the less mana and the extra damage, yay, it's still just not as good as Enlightenment. Enlightenment is an absolutely colossal amount of damage this season, and you may notice that when Enlightenment is up, your damage absolutely skyrockets, to the point that when it's not up, you feel like a wet paper towel. It's kind of a problem because it makes most of our key passives sort of useless, but hey, at least Enlightenment is really strong, but it does feel bad in a situation where we're using essentially the skill that arguably Avalanche is most designed to support. It's still better to use Enlightenment. In any case, that is your skill tree. So this is what your bars end up looking like, and in terms of playing, it's just kind of regular ice shards, right? You always want to be blasting at your ice shards, you want to be unstable currenting off cooldown, you want to be ice blading off cooldown, you want to be ice armoring off cooldown, using your flame shield to help build enlightenment, or to immune a tricky situation on a boss, etc., and then just spam teleporting through the level and everything that you're doing. It's very, very mobile, and there you have it. You will have some awkward tricky situations where the number of pierces that Ice Shards gains from piercing cold isn't actually enough. If you have a load of elites on your face, it just kind of gets stopped. That does feel kind of bad, but for the most part, you know, go fast, spam your shards. Now, I do want to take a moment to actually talk about Enlightenment and how ridiculous it is right now. So if we have a look at your damage with fire, lightning, and cold, Enlightenment is supposed to add all these together while it's up, right? But this season, that is going a little bit silly. Let me show you what I mean. Let's build Enlightenment up, and then we'll go back to that lovely screen, like so. And surprise, surprise, oh, we're now on 20,000 damage with gold. So, yeah, haha, ooh, that can get up to like 50k if you have perfect gear, and that's why during Enlightenment you are absolutely crushing. Whether it's now bugged or it's now fixed and before it was bugged, who knows, but that's what's going on. It's taking in a lot more than just additive, and well, pow. Aspects then on your wand, and you do want specifically a wand for the vulnerable damage, and you do want the one-handed focus for the attack speed on your Ice Shards. You want shredding blades for that huge vulnerable damage increase that will also stack up with other things we're doing. You want aspect of elements, so we get that silly amount of elemental multiplicative damage to work into Enlightenments and all of the shenanigans that it's currently doing. On your gloves, you want Storm Swell, will always have ice armor, so this is a nice increase. Frozen will happen a lot too, so we get the extra. And then on your amulet, to 1.5 times it up, we have new Piercing Cold for a really quite big increase in the damage that we're doing. On your legs, you want to have Orange Herald, so we guarantee that we have permanent unstable currents active for that attack speed. Then, if you don't have mythic uniques, you want to use just a normal ring, and on it you will put in a calm and just sort of stand there on top of bosses, not moving, because if you didn't know, when you teleport with the Evade Teleport, it doesn't count as moving, so you can maintain the full bonus of this while actually still technically moving. Then we have our unique, so you want Rakenov's Wake for the cooldown reduction, the non-physical is lovely, the all resist can really help you with your caps, which you want to make sure that you are at. The resist is nice, make sure you have 1,000 armor, which I currently don't, and I will talk about that in a moment. In any case, Rakenov's Wake. Then we want the ever-present, ever-reliable, ever-lovely Tal Rashes, that's why Flame Shield is here as well, to get the maximum stacks out of it, and of course, what powers it all, the new Hail of Verglas. This is really lovely outside of it being a helmet slot, and you really want to get those Ice Shard ranks, ideally on the GA. For your chest, if you want big damage, Raiment of the Infinite is fine, but technically speaking, this should be Shroud of False Death, the mythic unique, that is best here. The +1 to all the passives is just as much damage, but then we get all the extra health, and it's just an upgrade. I don't have it yet. However, if you are playing this build and feel a little bit squishy, you can put on just a regular chest piece with Snow Veiled on, and that will help alleviate that. It's also worth doing that if, like me, you're not at the armor cap in this particular setup yet, and that will do that for you, or at least in this case, just a little bit of an overkill. In any case, as I say, we'll get to that. For your runes and your gems, you want critical strike damage or vulnerable damage in your weapons, you want intelligence in your armor, and you want armor in your jewelry. Then for your runes, you want Igni Thul to generate mystical Frost Nova, and then you want yourself Tam Ohm to get the Barbarian's Warcry happening as much as possible for that lovely damage increase. Now, for your affixes, this is what you're after. On your wand, you want intelligence, max life, and critical strike damage. On your focus, you want critical strike chance, cooldown reduction ideally. Intelligence is fine as too. Max life is also fine if you're feeling a little bit squishy. On your necklace, you want ideally percent intelligence and then 2 lots of ranks, 2 damaging skills. So, Inner Flames is good. Hoarfrost is good, Glass Cannon is good, 2 of the just kind of generic damage increases that you've got on your skill tree. Then on your gloves, you want attack speed, critical strike damage, and intelligence. And then on your legs, you want the armor, max life, and intelligence. The ring, just get the best you can until you have Starless Skies. And just to reiterate, if you do have mythic uniques, you want Starless Skies and Shroud of False Death. So the reason that I'm not armor capped yet, that you probably will be, is I don't have the gem fragments for 3 royal skulls yet. If I had a royal skull in all of my jewelry, then I would be at 1,000, and that would all be good. So as a little tip, if you're in a similar situation to me, and you want to play this build to its maximum potential without a regular chest on, I would recommend investing in Song of the Mountain Incense, and just playing with that on while you're using it. It's cheap, you can make hundreds with materials from just playing the the game, and that's really useful. You can also think about increasing your maximum life if you need that as well, if you don't want the armor, and adding 100 intelligence is always good. Ideally, attack speed and lucky hit as your potion is the way to go too. Boss powers then. Our main one is going to be Beast in Ice Sleet. This does good damage, it activates fairly often, and just all in all is really helpful here. The freeze is good too. Chiefly though, it's to synergize with Harbinger of Hatred's Volley, which is going to be up constantly because this will activate at least once every 5 seconds, so we get an extra 30% multiplicative vulnerable damage, which is really tasty. Then we get the colossal straight up 50% crit chance from Hatred Embraces Haste, and then this nice big increase of all element damage from Cinerate's Flames. You do kind of want to end up in a situation where you're getting as close to 100% crit chance as possible and as much attack speed as possible, so this is looking really nice. Mercenaries, real quick, you want Subo, so you can go down to Opening Fire for the crit damage, and then you either want Vayana for more attack speed if you can fit it, because it's bucket 1, or Rahia for the damage reduction. For tempering and masterworking then, on your both wand and focus, you want chance for Ice Shards to cast twice and critical strike damage. On your legs, you want percent total armor, and then whatever you feel like. I like lucky hit chance just to make sure Unstable Currents resets with Orange Herald, and we get more mana in through the mana regen, so that's nice there, but whatever you feel like. On your gloves, you want barrier generation and critical strike damage. On your necklace, you want Unstable Currents cooldown reduction, so again we make sure it's permanently up, and critical strike damage. And then on your other ring, the same if you aren't using the mythic unique, and then you are pretty much done. Masterworking, as I say, you want the chance for Ice Shards to cast twice on the weapons, you want to hit the ranks of skills on your amulet, and you want to very much hit the ranks of Ice Shards on your helmet. And then cooldown reduction is good, attack speed is very good here on Starless Skies, but nothing else is so critical. Just hit nice, good offensive affixes and you will do fine. Which leaves then Paragon. Let's go through it, stay with me point for point. Up and right to grab Elementalist, and then up and left through Resilience to the glyph where we slot and activate Elementalist. Heading up for all the non-physical damage we can grab, and then up and right through Studied into the next board, which is going to be your Searing Heat board for that huge damage increase. Put the glyph in the bottom right, head over towards it, grabbing extra critical strike as you can, and here is Destruction, powered up as much as it can be with all the decks from around the place. Get Flame Touch too, and then go on the nice long journey all the way to Searing Heat itself. Then up and right into the next board, which is going to be your Enchantment Master board. This is why Familiar Enchant is so strong. We want to head initially right with it arranged like this, glyph in the top left, head straight up to the glyph where we slot and activate Unleash, grab your Elemental Balance and your Tactical, and then we continue down here, heading right through Blessing in order to get the Legendary Node. Continue all the way straight down into the next board, which is going to be your Ceaseless Conduits. This is the other reason we want Crackling Energy, a nice big damage increase, and we initially put the glyph in the top right, do this little up down to get to it, slot and activate Tactician, and you're all good. Head over for Galvanic Catalyst, and we don't really care too much about Crackling Energy damage unless you have way more Paragon points than me, then you eventually will get it just for the intelligence, but it's not a priority for me now with the amount I have available. In any case, then we head down to this intelligence, continue all the way round past Conduit to get to the Legendary Node itself. Then we continue right out the gate into the final board, which is going to be your Frigid Fate for another 60% multiplicative damage increase, arranged like this. Go to the glyph slot, and here we slot and activate Flame Feeder. Now, this isn't really for the burning damage, it's for the 10% multiplicative non-physical damage, which is really strong to have. It synergizes very well here, and is actually a very nice glyph to have access to. We continue on to Elemental Favor, grabbing non-physical damage, then up through Weakness and round to the Legendary Node. If you have more points than me, then you want to just fill in the gaps and grab everything useful. So you'd come down here, you would get all of this vulnerable damage and damage reduction, that's all well and easy. You'd grab all of these little extra offensive magic nodes around the place, you'd get them here, you would go get Devastate for the intelligence, and you would pick up all these little extras, the non-physical damage, and so on and so forth. Just grab every sort of magic node in range of what you've already got, and then start going on journeys to get the others as well, as they can give you some nice damage resistance. So this then is how the Paragon board ends up. And that then is, as requested, Ice Shards in Season 8, the new builds, the new unique, and honestly a lot of fun and plenty powerful enough for anything you could need on Torment 4, and really that's sort of the minimum, so hey, all good, although I do wish it was better than Lightning Spear. In any case, let me know what builds you'd like to see next, but for now, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.